Hey, welcome everybody to Associations Creating Community. This is a podcast for the Whiteford Law Firm, and I'm Jefferson Glassie. I'm a partner at the Whiteford firm, and really excited because Lynda Bouchard Patterson, FASAE, CAE, Chair of ASAE, CEO of AMPT Association Management, is such a wonderful person, great leader, and such a nice person and very friendly. And I really love her because we've known each other for a while now, and I can talk a little bit more about that. But I'm just so happy, Lynda, that you've taken time to come and just have a chat with us about community and associations. Thank you.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for having me. I love the time that we get to spend together, and I'm very grateful that you've put this together. Community is such an important part, really essential to what we do. So it's really my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And, I guess I specifically remember going back, God, was it 5 years ago when Stan Orr was leaving AEMP and AMPT, and I was looking at your website, and AMPT, one of the things you do is help with transitions and et cetera, when CEOs are retiring and that sort of thing. And Stan Orr is such a great guy, also a fellow, and we were buddies, and we got to chat and talk a little bit about during that transition. And boy, it just seems like you're going gangbusters over at AMPT. You do all kinds of things and have great clients. And so how is all that going? And how is your year as chair of ASAE been? My gosh, that's just so epic. That's great.
Thank you. Well, I do remember that fondly, transitioning Stan's company, and someone who we met mutually through the fellows program at ASAE. So was able to acquire Stan's company and AEMP, and for a time there, have an office in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, which was fun. Obviously, we're all remote now. So that is like one example of just a huge benefit of our community and the relationships. AMPT Association Management, as you know, we're managing 20 different associations. We're diverse by design, providing full management for trade and professional societies and some foundations. We just added a family foundation for an NFL player, actually. So that kind of diversity is so fun. And this will be news for you now, and will be out on social media soon. But I did just start another company talking about CEO transitions. So my new company is called Association CEO, and the tagline is leading through transitions. And so Association CEO will be focused on providing interim CEOs and C-suite executives and helping with other transitions. Two things we're looking at now is helping with the unification of some societies, and also fractional CEO. So that's kind of where we're shifting, focusing on the transitions within associations. So it has been great. I'm very blessed with such a great team and awesome clients. I love what I do. I love coming to work every day. And this year, as you said, I have the pleasure of serving as chair of the board of directors of the American Society of Association Executives. Michelle Mason is our president and CEO. She is in her third year and has just really made amazing changes, many of them behind the scenes, looking at all of the systems and technology, helping us with our strategy, focusing on governance, and having our board really working on the right things at a strategic level. And I'm here to support Michelle and her team and their work, and we've just had really great success. So I have to say it takes some time, but it is a way for me to give back and to help really elevate associations. That's one of the 4 pillars of our strategic plan, and that is something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, well, oh my gosh, there's so many things you just said I wanted to comment on, because, and it does, as you mentioned, it goes back to community, which we want to talk about. But, this new sort of business that you have, I have been surprised in the past that there was sort of a market for interim CEOs and other staff, leadership positions, but there sure is. And so I think you're really tapping into something. I might have a name to send to you, by the way.
Okay, so this is, and this is our community too. I had this business plan written in 2019 and was vetting it with so many of our peers at the ASAE annual meeting in Columbus. And then COVID hit, and it was sort of like, okay, we got to focus on, amped and making sure that our clients are successful. We get through the pandemic. And so many of the people who I've been talking with to be on the bench are, then started contacting me like, okay, this is the year I'm retiring, I'm ready to go. And so that was really the, why the timing is now. And so it is, building that bench, understanding what people are interested in. And it's just, something I hope to do for a very long time. It's kept people in my community who are now retired, mostly retired, some doing this by choice that, just want to take a break, to keep in touch with them and for them, to have a platform to be able to stay active and continue to give back and to serve this incredible community we're a part of.
Yeah, there's that community word again, and your enthusiasm is just so wonderful and welcome, and I've always loved that about you. But in terms of community, we just tapped into so many different concentric circles and buckets of things, because we all have our sort of personal communities at home and our kids' communities and all these things. But when you're mentioning these CEOs who can continue to give, and that speaks to the fact that this is a real profession, association management. It's not easy. People think that being on boards or managing, membership associations is kind of easy or something. I'm like, no. I mean, if you're an owner of a business, you can just decide here's the way it is. But if you have to, do things based on consensus-based decision making, that's not easy. And leading those types of organizations is really complex. So how do you sort of think about your communities? And then, I mean, you've got the AMP community, you've got all your client association communities, and you have this wonderful ASAE community that I know we both love. And they're just, how do you sort of think about community in any of those respects?
I was reflecting on this when last year when I was giving my incoming chair remarks at the annual meeting. And for me, I mean, this has been part of my makeup since day one. And so I am one of 7 kids, so essentially grew up in a little bit of an association there, right? Like that whole community and the extended community of, being one of 7 kids. So that I think obviously shaped me into, who I am today, but also we didn't always get along. We had to, work things out, right? When you talk about consensus building, I think, there are communities that we choose to be a part of, and there are communities that we kind of fall into. One of the communities that I fell into growing up was a water ski team that I was on, the Monaco Bats water ski team in northern Wisconsin. And that team of, we always say our 50 best friends, because we came from all different places and spent our summers there. And really, I mean, there are kids from other countries, and all 4 of my kids followed in my footsteps. And what I love about that, and is similar to associations, well, it is a nonprofit. The kids run it. They have an elected board of directors. But these are kids who wouldn't be friends probably in high school or in college. You have like the total geek, the jock, the partier, right? And they are truly 50 best friends for that, those 3 months out of the year and other times we get together. A couple of weeks ago, one of my friends I skied with lost her husband suddenly and tragically. And that community, like we skied in the 80s and just seeing like everyone come together and be there for Terry and is something that, again, it's like, even though we haven't seen each other for a long time. And so that, kind of reminded me of one of my communities growing up. The ASAE community is certainly something really special. Jeff, you and I met through ASAE and the Fellows Program. So I think that when I think about those communities within ASAE, I want to continue to make sure that communities are accessible, that they are inclusive. It's not realistic to think that all 50,000 of us are going to be, arm in arm, right? But to find your people and to make sure, for me, helping to facilitate that the best I can by being a mentor to DELP scholars, connecting with young professionals, and making sure that they get plugged in. I think it's something that Michelle Mason is really a master at as well. She continues to do that and facilitate connections within our community, both within formal groups and informally. So I think that is what, it's different now that we're doing a lot of this online and, resources are limited, so we can't always do it in person, but we have, I think everything at our core to make sure that we continue to, really nurture relationships and the communities, because they are really what get us through, help us grow, and they're really mutual, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it's so well said, because, we couldn't do it by ourselves. If it was just me and I was the only human on the earth, it wouldn't be as good as if there were
Right.
other people. Then we have all these communities, and associations are such wonderful, productive, beneficial organizations. I mean, we've all worked with different types of associations, and it could be the trade groups or the professional groups, and they have different interests, and sometimes they clash a little bit, and we can't all agree on everything, as you said, but they it's a way for us to be better, for all of us together to be better. And I really admire what you've done in terms of taking that leadership path at ASAE. But it's similar to all your association clients you work with, right? I mean, without that feeling of community, what do you even really have? It's hard to think of what you even have if you don't have that broader, that bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, we think about, well, our client base, the AMPT, is diverse by design. So I had, grown up running medical associations and scientific groups, and then spent about 5 years with trade associations, and I love them all for different reasons. This is what keeps me going, honestly, is that, diversity, but what they have in common. So whether they're and community is what they all have in common. So some of the trade associations are really focused on lobbying. We have groups with an interest in, we run the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. So that's where their lobbying interests lie. The wire producers are, really focused on trade policy. But then looking at some of our professional societies we're really focused on education, certification, scientific breakthroughs, all right. So you can see where the different missions are and the core purpose of the association. But the way that is all accomplished is through community. and members coming together and sharing ideas and educating one another and understanding different viewpoints to learn from each other. And that's really how they are designed. So you talk about that, you know, consensus building. I mean, even though they're a trade association or a professional society of similar interests or businesses, they're never all in agreement. And so it's, you know, working through that and coming up with what is best for the community, you know, be able to take off your individual hats.
Yeah.
And I really think that associations are the masters at that, which it makes it, and it's not easy. It's not always easy. I think I'm making it sound easier than it is, but at the end of the day, you know, that's how we make progress. And I just feel so blessed to be working in this profession.
Yeah, me too. Even as a lawyer, I felt that way. I mean, this is my community. I don't go to bar meetings, you know. But, you know, there really is a skill set in sort of helping associations and their communities do what they need to do, come to consensus, all that. It's not just, you know, hocus pocus or some formula. So do you have, I don't know if you have any tips or thoughts that might be beneficial to any association execs, young or old, or new or experienced, about things to focus on in community, or things that you may have found as a CEO that you think are things that they should maybe keep top of mind, or maybe bottom of mind, but that may help them in what they do, because it's a really important role that association managers, professionals, executives have, I think.
Yeah, no, I could not agree with you more. And this, I think, is something, you know, this is where the art of our profession really comes in, and the fun part for me, honestly. So I always, and maybe it's because I get to work with so many different associations that, you know, I'm invested, but I'm not the full-time CEO, right? Like, so I think that puts me in, you know, it's a vantage point, honestly. But I start with really, like, from a governance and a mission perspective of, like, okay, you have the mission statement, but, like, really, why are we here? Like, what is it that we're trying to accomplish? What do we all have in common to accomplish that? From a governance perspective, what is our role in that? And so then I think about things like, you know, representation on the board, representation on committees in different leadership roles, right? So kind of structuring this thing to make sure that you have good representation. And I think that our community still has a long ways to go, but has done, you know, we're really making progress to make sure that we have, you know, women on boards that have typically been dominated by men, that we've got, you know, people of different colors and religions and ages and, you know, abilities that we can see and not see, because that makes that consensus building so much stronger and meaningful. So I really think that, you know, we unfortunately can't just wave the magic wand and that happens. As I said, I think there's still a ways to go, but I'm really proud of the progress in the associations that I work with. I'm really proud of ASAE leading the way, you know, when it comes to having that diverse representation on whatever the body is. So I think that is the first step. And then making sure that you know, everyone understands their role. And so while we're coming together, you know, representing diverse communities, that it is that same thing that I said at the beginning, right? Like taking that hat off and looking at what's best for our community as a whole, our industry, our profession, you know, whatever the association may be. And I think seeking out people who have different viewpoints, I would rather have that during those critical discussions than facing it after a decision's made and then going like, well, we had, missed that. So I think, at the highest level from a CEO perspective, that is the most important place. And then it comes down to, facilitation and communication. And I think, it's really, it's hard work and it's compromise, I think, and going in with that mindset gets us to where we need to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, diversity is such a strength that people don't really realize that. But when you have people from different backgrounds and different perspectives, it has to make your decision making better. If you're in the context of where people can be heard and listened to and can, take action based on that. It's really, I think you're right. It's really so important. And you're also kind of referencing fiduciary duties and allegiance to the mission and focusing on the mission and not putting your own self front and center as opposed to, the collective, the community, what's good for the community. Mm-hmm. I just want to also take the opportunity to ask you something that I've been thinking about a lot. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you are the chair of ASAE here, and we're talking. But I know that ASAE, from a public policy perspective, is limited in some ways in what they can do because we have members that have different, perspectives on things. But when it comes to like democracy and the things that make associations work, the freedom of speech and freedom of association and freedom of the press and those freedoms. And even when it comes to the climate, there are things that sometimes seem to me to be outside of our like specific little bucket, but that, to whom much is given, much is expected in a way. And association executives have such skills and such, important attributes and they're just masters, as you said. And so how do you feel about associations kind of maybe going outside our own little organizations and trying to deal with maybe some of the bigger issues that we have in this kind of fractured society? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, Jeff, as we talk about community, and I mentioned 50,000 members of ASAE, but think about 60,500 associations with those 60,500 with unique, maybe complementary missions and purposes, and then drill down to all of the individual members of the 60,500 associations. ASAE is doing some research, so we'll have some updated numbers on that. And, the opportunity that we have to, get a glimpse of what's happening in the world and different viewpoints. And so I think it is something that from an ASAE perspective, what we can do is elevate the role of associations, the impact that associations have in our country, on society, in business, in health, in every aspect. And so I think that is a role for ASAE, and that fits, squarely with our mission, is to help, lift up and elevate all of our member associations and individual members. So as kind of the mothership, I think that is the key role for us to play.
Yeah, that's so well said again. And I'm certainly buying into that because, as ASAE is the mothership is a great way to think about it, because, my son said one time, geez, there's associations for everything, every industry and profession in the whole world. So association executives is like they're on top of the world.
I
And
love that.
yeah,
I
so
love
you
that.
know, to not shirk from what we can do collectively too. So I applaud your perspective on that, and thanks for sharing. I did say that if there was anything that you had wanted to say that I might not have asked about, welcome to bring it up, or if you have, closing thoughts or anything like that. But I'm really so appreciative of your taking the time. It's just really a joy to talk with you, and again experience your positivity and your enthusiasm. And I know ASAE is in good hands this year with you, and I really appreciate what you've been doing and what you do.
Oh gosh, well, thank you. And, since the first time I met you, you bring just really unique and positive energy anywhere that you go. And so I appreciate you and, the fun we've had, the intellectual conversations and, everything in between. So, and the fact that you're doing this is a gift to our community, and one that, I hope can continue. So I guess, from my perspective, for all of us to understand, that bigger picture, the bigger role that we play outside of, the grind day in and day out, and, do what you can, each and every one of us, to elevate the role of associations, the impact that we have on society, but also from a workforce perspective. Let's get people really excited about this profession and, something that they choose. So I think that's another way for us to continue to build for the future.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Lynda. We have a great community. I enjoy talking about it, and we'll look forward to the next physical meeting to see you, and keep up your good work. And thanks very much for all that you do.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Jess. Take care.
All right, Lynda. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.